Shut the fuck up, thank you. Right, that's 2 on the dot, so if people are late, tough shit. I have a lot of warnings. I have my own rating in SteelCon. Even Woody would be shocked. Well, Woody doesn't get shocked very easily, but alas. There might be devil worship. I do apologise if you're Christian. Fuck that shit. My mouth does operate faster than my brain, so if I do offend you, well, Neil put it perfectly. If you come to one of my talks and you get offended, you're a fucking muppet. That was said, that said, it's going to be a fun talk. If you expect to learn something today, you won't. You'll just get to see some Scots drinking some whiskey, chatting some shit. So, I mean, yeah, I'll do some stuff. But first of all, thanks for being here. You made it to SteelCon. You're not as hungover as me. I'm still drinking, so it's fine. Thanks to Robin, Woody, and team for having me. And for the first time in my life, I'm on track 1. So there's a fucking lot of people who've come along to listen to me chat shit and probably throw things at me. So I've got something to hide behind. Thankfully this year there's no Nerf guns, so nobody's firing fucking bullets at me, thankfully. But anyway, shut the fuck up. I'm talking, so there's some bloody violence in this. But before we get started, I'm not a red teamer, I'm not a blue teamer, and I'm not a purple teamer. Not an expert. I'm slowly learning the dark arts. Like I do red teaming, I do a little bit, but I wouldn't say I'm professional. I'm not a pro bug hunter. I found some holes in some websites that have vaginas on them, but that's just what I've done. I hack things and I try to find problems. So I problem solve for a job. I'm not elite. I don't drop 0 days. If you're expecting to see some cool, elite new but vulnerability, you're not going to find it today. I'm just Andy. But kind of a little bit about me. Anyone who follows me on Twitter, I've got a blue car. It's fucking great. It goes fast. I've not been caught by the police yet. Actually, no. I've not been stopped by the police properly yet, so that's fine. In my kind of summertime, I go to Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but now that the internet exists, pictures get taken. So every year for this will be my 3rd year, I volunteer at DEF CON as a goon. Not the Scottish phrase, not a fucking Egypt, just like a helper. It's a silly phrase, but hey. And also I really enjoy jumping around like a fucking lunatic, kicking cunts in the face. So yeah, other times I do this sort of stuff. So kind of top left, that's last year. So last year it was packed out. I was on track 2, now I'm on track 1, and it's just as busy. Up there I was chatting to some school kids. I offended all the parents, and I did apologise at the start. I said, I'm going to really offend you, but the kids will learn something. Don't let a Scotsman speak to kids. Down here, this was my 2nd ever talk at a conference at Bayside Glasgow. I taught everyone how to kill people and hide the bodies. It's on YouTube, you can go and watch it. The best way to hide a body, well, not hide a body, the best way to kill someone is like poison them, put them in garden twine, drop them in a lake, and then it's fine. Obviously don't get caught, but yeah. Acid doesn't work. Anyone who's seen Breaking Bad, yeah, it doesn't work, it's fine. I haven't tried personally, but I've heard it doesn't work. You've got nothing on me. Most of the time I do this sort of stuff. So Cooper pointed out, when I was setting up, what the fuck is Andy doing in a suit? Yeah, that's true. When I used to work for a big corporate, I used to have to go on site and wear a suit. Now I wear, smart trousers and a polo shirt. But that's me below a company, in my other blue car, so my old fast car, doing Wi-Fi hacking. Don't connect your guest network to your corporate network. It doesn't go very well. And that's me doing some other hacky sort of stuff. But enough about the pretty pictures. You kind of want to know a little bit about me. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Andy Gill. I'm a hacker or penetration tester at PTP, Pentest Partners. I've been in security for the last 8 years, and I've been doing talks for the last 4. I've been in IT for the last 10, and I'm still pretty young. I'm only 25. Most of you cunts are older than me. Sucks to be you. I wrote a book about pen testing, how to get in security. It's called Learning the Ropes 101. I have physical copies. If you fancy one, come see me afterwards. It's not about bondage. I gave this talk, I gave a talk to a bunch of school kids. I made that joke. Nobody knew what bondage was. A few of them Googled it. Wasn't a great time, but alas. If you don't know what bondage is, go Google it. It's fine. Alas. You won't learn anything about bondage in this, but the book is great fun. Should probably clarify. Not bondage. Whatever you're into. I'm described as a hacker, a writer, a researcher, a speaker, and now a lecturer. So I suppose speaker and lecturer sort of fall into the same category. I wrote a book, I hack shit, I find bugs, and I speak at conferences, and now I run a pen testing fundamentals course. in a college in Glasgow, so I'm fucking up the future generation. Yay. I failed upwards into this industry. Like a lot of people, we're not really academics. Some people are academics, and fair play to you, uni, all that jizz stuff. Not jizz. All that stuff. All that jazz, not jizz. I fucked up everything at school, so I failed every single fucking exam. Like, I sat it, so my second last year of school, I sat everything, failed it, resat it in sixth year, failed it again, and, someone's waving. Not to me, cool. So, enough shit about me. Why the fuck are you actually here? Quick shout out to Chrissy Morgan, who can't be here. She did a talk at Le Tour de Hack in Edinburgh, and introduced me to this amazing Twitter account called Effin' Birds. Effin' Birds essentially do like artwork of birds and just have sweary shit underneath. Stuff that I love. The talk plan. So I'm going to kind of give you my understanding of red teaming, bug bounties, and deep penetration. So essentially, what I say is what I think it is. What your understanding of red teaming and my understanding of red teaming, they might be different. I'm prepared to be wrong, but fuck you, I'm standing here. Come down and tell me. I'll fucking let you do the presentation. I'm going to talk about the unidirectional mindsets between red teaming and bug bounties. I should probably read this before I speak about it. How the techniques cross over and how the similarities are they're very similar. I'm also going to go through a subset of the bug hunters methodology by Jason Haddix, who I don't know who he works for now. He used to work for BugCrowd, and apply it to a red team scenario. And then I'm going to go through the tactics, techniques, and procedures for all of the above. So for red team, for bug bounties, and for pen testing a little bit. And then I'll have a little slide about kind of the future of these three. Probably offend some vendors in the room. If there's any corporates in the room, I do apologise. My understanding of all three. Fuck off for that shit to start with, because nobody wants to do it. But really, it's the fun stuff. So red teaming. What the fuck is this? My understanding of red teaming is you're bringing a third party into your organization to test your defenses. You're looking at testing your people, your software, your policies, everything in between. You're looking at making your blue team better at doing their fucking job. You do get people who sell red teaming, which really you're going in and running Nessus. That's not a fucking red team. Let's not lie about it. But realistically speaking, you're looking at finding ways to bypass endpoint protection. You're looking at bypassing holes in the kind of processes that's going on. So if you employ endpoint protection, my job as a red team is to come on site, or maybe not even come on site, fish into your organization and find bypasses to kind of break your policies, break your procedures. More often than not, you'll find that, well, Neil talked about this morning, phishing is like a massive entry point to organizations. It's what we often do. We'll find an organization, find their head of finance or whatever, be like, alright, cool, drop in on LinkedIn, be like, right, cool, I'm hiring for company X. How much money are you on at the moment? Cool, I'll double it. Open this document, please. Boom, shell, no bother. And you can protect against that. You can employ technologies, but the weakest link in the chain is always going to be the people. You can educate people, but all it takes is one click. Oh, here, get free Pornhub Premium. Boom, click, shell. I've not done it personally. I've heard people that do it. It works. You're playing on the kind of psychological side of things. My girlfriend's going to punch me for this, right? So, bit of background. Girlfriend's not a violent person, too much. She is really interested in psychology, and she's like, every time someone uses psychology in a statement that's wrong, she just wants to punch them in the face, and I use it wrongly all the time, so I've not got any bruises, any visible bruises, but yeah. She's not violent. She's a nice person. But yeah, that's essentially what red teaming is. There are different definitions across different industries. Some people will define red teaming as what people understand as an internal pen test. You go on site, you run responder, you get hashes, you privilege escalate, you get DA, and some companies will sell that as a red team. It's not a red team. Don't kid yourself. It's an internal pen test. Some people will sell phishing with an internal and say, that's a red team. It's like, no, a red team isn't done in 3 days. If you're doing a red team in 3 days, you're kidding yourself. Realistically speaking, you're talking about 2 weeks per scenario, so per engagement. And not per engagement, per scenario. So you maybe have an objective of, you must get access to this area of the network. And you've got an open scope, and you can do by any means possible. Just don't blow the fucking place up. And then you've got other scenarios like, oh, well, you need to gain access to this person's emails, or you need to impersonate this person and gain access. You've then got a different area, so you've got similar to red teaming, but different. You've got brand damage. So brand damage is not red teaming. Brand damage is looking at damaging your brand, so reputational damage. I want to set your shit on fire. I want to break your fucking company. I want to be a criminal, but have permission to do it. That's the difference there. But that's a kind of overview of red teaming. Bug bounties, they're slightly different. So I suppose you could say bug bounties are similar to red teaming more than they are pen testing in the sense that they have a more open scope. I didn't mention in the previous slide, red teaming is, generally speaking, quite an open scope. There's nothing really out of scope. You'll find that maybe one or two systems, maybe critical national infrastructure is maybe out of scope. You maybe have like the ATM systems out of scope and similar, but most of the time it's a very open scope. Bug bounties, they are very similar in the sense that the scope will be, well, you take Yahoo, for example, or they're now owned by Verizon. Their scope is generally anything we own is in scope, but the only thing that's out of scope is social engineering. So you can't barrel up on site and be like, I'm Bill from IT, give me your fucking credentials. I mean, you could probably try, but they won't give you any money for it. The other difference between bug bounties and red teaming is that typically speaking for red team, you're a consultant at the end of the day, so you're billing on a day rate or you're billing on a project basis. Bug bounties is about kind of fastest finger first. It's not a sexual term. You might think of it that way. It's not. You're looking at finding the bugs as quick as possible, and you get paid per bug. It's not like I'm going to bill you 20 grand for 2 weeks' work. It's I could spend fucking 6 years on this and find one bug, and it's a duplicate, so I'll get fuck all for it. That's the other big thing in bug bounties, finding duplicates. Just a quick show of hands. Who is a bug hunter or does bug bounties in the room? And keep your hand up, who has had a duplicate for something they think's fucking cool? Yep, sucks to be you guys. I've had the same. It's awful. But, and then quick show of hands, who's a red teamer in the room or who practices red teaming? Or thinks they do red teaming after I've just described it? Okay, nobody. That's great. So none of you know what the fuck red teaming is and you could just understand that's fine. So then we've got the other, so bug bounties, open scope, red teaming, wider scope. Then you've got the kind of more closed scope. It's being called a commodity more and more. So penetration testing, deep penetration. Essentially penetration testing it's a security exercise for a company. So you're testing in a time-limited period against a specific area of the business. So it might be that you're doing social engineering, but you're only testing the physical aspects of things. Now, some companies have coined the phrase black teaming. It's not a gangbang, it's a thing. It's, right, say black teaming and tell me it's not something to do with sex. I mean, it's basically, sorry, I've not got any water, I've just got whiskey. It's basically, pen testing is a commodity in the sense that you're testing different aspects of the business. You might have 5 days to test one web application, and you report on things like SSL. Scott Helm, fucking wank yourself off. It's true, he's got a fucking hard-on for SSL. He just loves that shit. It's just like, alright, cool, whatever. I mean, fair play to him. He drives a nice car, and he's got all that shit, and mine's is faster, but alas. But yeah, you report things like SSL. You report things that might not necessarily be exploitable, but it's a kind of overview of security to the business. You wouldn't, in a red team, typically speaking, you probably wouldn't report SSL. You'd exploit it. So if you've got an O-day for Poodle, you can actually extract shit. You'd fucking exploit it. You wouldn't be like, oh, we found SSL v3. That's great. There's a fucking low-risk issue. You're going to exploit it. So the difference between pen testing and that is, and also bug bounty from that perspective, it's looking at ways to exploit. So pen testing is tick box, red team, bug bounty is exploit. Bug bounty, paid, red team, project-based, kind of objective, getting in, getting out. Also, pen testing tends to be, it can be lots of things. You can cover across compliance. You can do, now people are selling vulnerability scans as pen testing, or they have been for a while. It's not that shit. Don't send a Nessus monkey on site. And this has been live streamed, so hi the internet. That's my understanding of those three. Then you've got the unidirectional mindsets. That is a word that I didn't know what it meant before I wrote this slide, and it sounded fucking cool. But essentially, the skill share between all three of them. What the fuck is a unidirectional mindset? I don't know. It's a cool word, and I put it in a slide. But my understanding is that it's the shared kind of. Correct me if I'm wrong. Any English graduates in here, or people who are graduates in literature, tell me I'm wrong. It's the shared mentality between the two, or three. So you use reconnaissance the same way, not the same way, but you use reconnaissance in pen testing, you use reconnaissance red team, you use reconnaissance bug bounty. They work differently together in different ways. So you've got different tooling, different bits and pieces. How does it work? So I'll talk about the methodology in a minute, but you're looking at finding things and implementing them different ways. So where you find a subdomain takeover on a bug bounty, you'll maybe exploit it and put cross-site scripting in there. Whereas in a red team, if you find a subdomain takeover, you're going to take it over, exploit it, and leverage it for either fronting, so looking at making it the front for a C2 framework. So you send traffic to it, and the organization, blue team, sees it, and they're like, well, actually, that's our domain, so surely that can't be a problem. Or you exploit it for phishing campaigns. So you compromise the subdomain of an organization, you host your phishing content on there, you send it into the organization, and if they've got things like Mimecast, it's probably going to allow it pass because it's wetrust.our-domain.com, so you're going to bypass it that way. What it also does is it looks at different techniques that you wouldn't necessarily use in pen testing, so things like, well, domain fronting, for example. Domain fronting you wouldn't use in pen testing because 9 times out of 10 you're not going to use a C2 framework for pen testing. Does anyone not know what a C2 framework is? And I'm just chatting shit to you. Cool, that's fine. People understand sort of what I'm talking about, or hopefully. So yeah, you're looking at kind of different ways. The other differences in reconnaissance between the two, I'm going to talk about this further on the slides, but in bug bounties, you're doing all your recon and you're finding your things, and then you're acting on it. If you're looking for low-hanging fruit, you find things, you report them, you make a little bit of money. Or if you're smart, you hold your data and you start to look more and kind of break into the organization. Why does each exist? So red teaming exists, as I discussed at the start, test the defensive capabilities of testing the blue team. Typically speaking, a bug bounty, you're not really testing the blue team, or if you are, you're doing a fucking great job of it. You've maybe got a foothold in the organization, but typically speaking, in a bug bounty, that's out of scope. So scope in a bug bounty, it tends to be quite kind of defined. Once you find your first kind of entry point, you can't then go on. Whereas in a red team, once you've got your foothold, that's your kind of first step, or maybe even step 0. In a pen test, well, you might get a foothold on a network, and it depends on the scope, will depend on what you can do with it. So each exists for each different reason. Red teaming, everything. Bug bounty, it's a kind of supplementary security program for what you've got implemented. So you might get like annual pen testing, you might get red teaming, but if you've got a bug bounty on the side, you're going to scoop up the low-hanging fruit. So there's tools that have been written in the past couple of years. One of them is called Asset Note, which is by 2 guys. I want to say Australia, it might be New Zealand. A guy called Shubs and a guy called Nafi wrote it, and another guy. But essentially what it does is it monitors specific assets of an organization, and it will report. I think it checks every 5 or 15 minutes. So if you've got a development team that are standing up, test instances and things, it'll pick it up, it'll screenshot it, it'll like exploit stuff. It'll email them a report, and I think it's now started reporting it to a platform. So platform being like HackerOne or Synack or Bugcrowd, for example. And I've heard of people starting to use that in red teaming and also in threat intelligence. So leveraging continuous monitoring. So maybe you do threat intel for 6 months before you do an engagement. You have your clients in the books. You start to look for exposed portals. You start to look for these bits and pieces, and then you go, well, we've got an engagement coming up at the end of the year. We'll keep monitoring it. If it's still there, we'll leverage it. So yeah, they all exist for different reasons. Each is applicable in a different way. I wouldn't say, some companies have, it's more often in the States. In the UK, a lot of companies will get pen tested because they need to for compliance. Not many companies will get red teamed because generally speaking it's quite expensive, because you're talking, average is like 2-3 weeks, so maybe 20, 30, 40 grand a project, whereas the average pen test, a couple of grand, if that. Bug bounties is completely different because you probably put a budget aside for it, so you're like, well, we're going to pay up to, we've got a budget of 10 grand, and if you find a critical vulnerability, we'll give you 5 grand. So that's half the budget gone already. Whereas if they've done pen testing before that and they put a bug bounty into place, they're going to be like, well, we've caught all the kind of low-hanging fruit. We're looking for like chained exploits or bits and pieces, so it's cheaper. And in an ideal world, you have all 3, but 9 times out of 10, you probably have 2 or 1. Most companies pen testing, some companies pen testing and bug bounties. Big companies, red teaming, pen testing, and bug bounties. Bug bounties scoop up everything, red teams testing your whole stack, and so on and so forth. Who does them? So, pen testing, everyone and their dog can do pen testing. If you can run Nessus, you can probably pen test. I wouldn't say that's not pen testing in a nutshell, but that is a lot of what some companies sell pen testing as. Red teaming, it's a lot more specialised. It's a lot more of a kind of focused mindset. So you need to understand different technologies. You need to understand how Active Directory works, how you get into an organisation. You have someone in your team who's maybe very good at physical social engineering. So physical isn't for everyone. Some people just don't have the balls or tits. I don't know what the right is. Anyway, it's a phrase. Everyone doesn't. Bug bounties is an interesting one because technically speaking, anyone can do a bug bounty. There's no background checks. There's no some programs that are background checks, but for most platforms, anyone with a computer can log on to HackerOne or BugCrowd or Synack or Cobalt or any other platform and do bug bounties, and they can hack companies without risk of getting sued or prosecuted. So it's definitely changed the market. I mean, the bug bounties have been around for a while, and I think they've been around for like 20 years or something. The first one was like Netscape, but more and more in the last 5 years, they've become more and more prevalent, and I think there's now more bug hunters than there are pen testers. Certainly in the UK, there's people who are as young as 12 finding vulnerabilities in Facebook and getting paid like $10,000. So it's quite a lucrative, like, industry. When do they do them? Well, a lot of times you'll find that people who are day-to-day pen testers will moonlight as a bug hunter. I know a lot of people who do it, and if I'm honest, it's pretty good money. I mean, I found a lot of bugs in Pornhub, and they paid me a lot of money for it. It was great. I got free premium, I got a bunch of t-shirts, I got stickers and shit, but they gave me money as well. It was great. But at the same time, I was doing my day job. So yeah, it's lots of people do them. They've done it at different times. So moving on, we've got the bug hunters methodology. This was written, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5. Jason Haddock's presented it at DEF CON, and he was talking about the different kind of, areas that someone who was wanting to get into bug hunting or wanting to find different bug classes would look into. So you've got the philosophy. I looked into this before I did my talk, and I can't find a kind of centralised philosophy for bug bounties. Different people have different reasons for doing them. Some people say, I want to make the internet safer because you're fucking weird. Or other people are like, I want to make tons of money, I want to drive a nice car, I want to have a nice house, I want to have a nice life. Yeah, that's fair enough, it's an easy way to make money, or it can be an easy way to make money. Other people, they're looking at, I want to improve my skill set. That's why I started it personally. I started it to learn more, and I find that the more things that I find in bug bounties, I find it being more applicable in my day-to-day jobs. I find it applicable to pen testing, to red teaming, to like just speaking to clients, because a lot of clients now are thinking, oh, that's a buzzword, like this buzzword bingo, we've got everything, but we've not heard of this bug bounty thing. We heard that you found bugs. Can you talk us through it? And it's really useful. I'm going to kind of step through you can read all that shit, but basically I'm going to focus on a few of them. I'm going to talk about the shared philosophy between the two. So the kind of, typically a red team is slow and stealthy. You're looking to obtain the objective. You're not looking to be super loud. A bug bounty, yeah, you want to be kind of patient as well. As much as it is fastest finger first, and you're looking at getting the objective as quick as possible, you're also looking at not causing harm, because you'll find as well most of the time that like denial of service is out of scope, as it is with most engagements. You'll find some clients, some industries will want to do denial of service testing, but I wouldn't say that's pen testing. I wouldn't say that's like red teaming or anything like that. I think that's a specific area. Correct me if I'm wrong. There might be some companies that do that as part of a pen test. I know for a fact any of the companies I've worked for don't tend to mark it out of scope. But yeah, always be a ninja always be yourself unless you can be a ninja. Always be a ninja. So breaking down the methods, so I'm going to kind of focus on 3 of the methods out of the bug hunters methodology, because they're directly applicable to pen testing and red teaming. Discovery, identification, and leverage. Arguably, you could say they're the first kind of steps. So you've got, why the fuck do you want to be picky about this shit? Discovery. So discovery, when cyber threat intel isn't an option, you'll find a lot of the good companies in the world will have threat intel-led red teaming, and that's fucking great, but not everyone's made of money. Not everyone can have an in-house threat intelligence company or in-house threat intelligence department. Sometimes it's outsourced. Things like CBEST, Neil touched on CBEST in his talk this morning. CBEST needs to be threat intel-led. You're profiling an organization, you're finding the kind of threat actors. What are the threats to that organization, and you're leveraging them and you're emulating them. But typically speaking, as Joe Blogs, doing bug bounties, I don't have a threat intel department. I can't fucking afford to do that shit. Usually I've got a couple of quid. So I'm looking at leveraging different tools. So I'm looking at historical discovery, and as part of historical discovery, you use things like the Wayback Machine. I'd say Wayback Machine and Google are the two biggest tools I use all the time, and they're fucking great. You go and find, so you filter Google by times between 2001 to 2005, and you will find things that are exposed, that have been exposed for the last 10, 15 years. And you can get in that way. In a bug bounty, that's a couple of quid. Or if it's a big company, so I found one a couple of years, I think it was last year or the year before, quite a big fashion company. And they had an exposed, they had an exposed memcache. So memcache being a service that you can read bits and pieces. It's used for various functions on the back end, but I found that was exposed to the internet. And I could delete everything on their main website from that specific bug. But that'd been sitting on the internet for, I think it was 20 years. So it puts in perspective. So using Google to actually find things is, half our job is Googling shit. If anyone's to ask you, what do you do as a job? Well, I'm a professional Googler. I'm better at using Google than you are. And it's the truth. Tell me I'm wrong. Anyone? No, because it's fucking right. So yeah, leveraging Google, leveraging the Wayback Machine as well. The Wayback Machine is also very useful because you can look at a target and how the target has changed over a period of time. So you look at maybe, we'll take Facebook for example. Fucking hate the company, but they've got a good bug bounty. You look at their platform now, and then you go back 5 years or 10 years, and you look at how much it's changed. It was just a very simple site in the beginning, and then they've added more shit. They've started to steal more data, they've started all this sort of shit. You can tell I'm a great fan of Facebook, love those guys and girls. You can go through that, but from a red team perspective, that can be incredibly useful, because if you pick up a target and you want to go after, their CFO or their chief financial officer, and they've been the director of that company for a long period of time, they might have profiles or assets somewhere else, and you go after those assets and you find things to craft your phishing campaign. So it's all background information that you can leverage. And you can leverage it for bug bounties, like I've just spoke about. You can find exposed things and leverage them that way. Also, passive OSINT, so threat intelligence, kind of a fluffy way of describing threat intelligence is a license to print money. That's essentially what it is. It's nothing more, nothing less. But it is using these sort of things. Passive OSINT, you're looking at, so I've said a lot of talk about historical discovery. Active OSINT, you're looking at domain identification. You're looking at domain mirroring, so you're looking at things that you can leverage. So domain identification will be like subdomain brute forcing. You maybe find that domain.com, you maybe find admin.dev.uat.domain.com is exposed to the internet, and you can leverage that to compromise things. Then you've got tooling, which I'll talk about later on. And then you've got the second part, which is identification. So once you've done all your discovery, you want to collate all the fucking things. You want to map out the external footprint. So mapping out the estate. Once you've found your ASNs, your IP blocks, you collate them all together. Maybe you start to scan them. Maybe you start to kind of leverage them. We'll talk about leverage in the next slide. But you collate everything. So you find, typically speaking, when I'm doing a bug bounty, I'll do all the subdomain identification. I'll do Google hacking. I'll look at the IP blocks. I'll start to scan them. So I'll scan them for common ports like 80443. See if there's web apps running on them. 8080, 8443. If you've done Crest CCT, you've got ports that go into your arm. You just need to know everything for them. But you start to scan them, and then you start to do active reconnaissance against them. So Chris Truenser, who spoke earlier on, has written a great tool called Eyewitness. And I leverage that, or I've started to use it more in red teams as well, but I use it on bug bounties all the time. You feed it a big list of URLs, and it will go away and screenshot them. And that is priceless. It's so useful. Because you can have, 20,000. 20,000 is probably quite a low amount. Maybe 100,000 domains, and you chuck them in a file. They can be subdomains, different ports, different things. You feed them into Eyewitness. Eyewitness will go away. You give it amount of threads. I really hate my VPS, and I give it like 1,000 threads, and the RAM hates me. But anyway, it goes away. It screenshots them all, drops them in a lovely HTML report, and then you can click through them, and then you can start to identify what's better to go after. So, out of those 100,000 domains, maybe I found 10,000, 15,000 that are potential kind of interest. The other beautiful thing about Eyewitness is that it will categorize what it thinks the domain is. So if it's a CMS, it will put it in a category. If it's a login page, it will list what it thinks the default login details might be. It'll also, I think in the latest revision, it'll try and log into the login page. So if it is admin, it'll log in and flag it up. So that's really, really useful. This isn't an advertisement for this tool, but it's really, really fucking powerful. What it's also, over the years, done, I think it still does, is it'll screenshot things like RDP. So if you find 3389 open on a box, you plug it into iWitness, provided network level. Fuck it, the one that you need to, I can't remember what it's called anyway. Provided that's not enabled, you can go away and screenshot it without prompt for credentials. So, does anyone know what that's called? I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Anyway, yeah, thank you. So it will go away and screenshot that. It will also do VNC, which is beautiful. You go through things, you find VNC, if it's read-only, if it's writing, you can go and exploit that. But you collate all the things, and you start to map it out. And what I've started doing more and more, and what I found really useful, I spoke about it yesterday in Neil and I's workshop, is attackers work off graphs, and defenders work off lists. So I've started to graph out what I find. So if I find that you've got an endpoint that's got all these hosts on it, I'll start to map it out. I'll mind map it, I'll draw it out, and then I'll be like, right, okay, these are the different attack paths. These are what I can leverage to get into your organization. This is what I can use to find things. If I'm bug hunting, I'll be like, right, okay, I found a login page. That's a bug to start with. It's over HTTP. In most programs, it's quite a low payout. However, if I can leverage that, find default credentials, log in, boom, I've got like 500 quid. Or I've found stuff previously where you find like Oracle e-business suite and it's got default credentials. You log in, you've got access to a lot of data. And not only that, if it's outdated, it's vulnerable to things like SQL injection. And you've just got bugs as long as you're armed. You can start writing reports and you're just making loads of money from that. And that's the bug side of things. From a red team perspective, if you get access to that, you've got access to business intelligence, you've got access to the day-to-day of the business. There are other middleware softwares available, but e-business suite is so fucking vulnerable, it's great to exploit. So you collate all that, and then you go and you actually leverage it. So you kind of find the weaknesses and you start to gain your foothold. I've been kind of echoing it through and through the talk, the differences between red teaming and bug bounty is that social engineering tends to be out of scope. Social engineering. You're pawning your foothold into a network. So what you want to do is you want to find everything, collate it, then exploit it. So exploit it via social engineering or exploit it via just pawning shit, essentially. Or you just call them up and you go, I need your password, please. And people give you that, because, yeah. Once you're in an organization, in a red team, you're looking at kind of pivoting, so you're looking at lateral movement, you're looking at kind of moving across the domains, finding different things internally. If your objective is to get to a certain area of the network, you're looking at how you get there. So maybe your objective is you might need to get to the finance share because, payroll stored there. So you land on one domain, you need to hop over and kind of exploit the trust relationships and then move over, gain access, and by the end of the engagement, you've got a list of credentials and you're in the network. So that's tick. You've got objective 1. Objective 2 might be that you actually need to get access to, the CEO's emails. So you're looking at different ways of leveraging your foothold. Once you've got that, you're looking at your kind of tactics, your techniques and your procedures. This is a lot of text, I do apologize, but your tactics is very similar to between bug hunting and red teaming. The tactics that you do to get into an organization, you're thinking like a criminal. The difference between me and a criminal, 1, I'm ginger. You don't get many ginger criminals. Or you might do, and 2, I've got permission. I've got permission to do what I'm doing 9 times out of 10. I've always got permission to do what I'm doing. Edit that out of the stream. You're looking at, I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, the difference between a criminal is that I've got permission to do what I'm doing, whereas a criminal will just go and hack shit up and do things. Also, techniques. So, we've talked previously about subdomain takeovers. You've got asset identification. You're looking at kind of finding everything, mapping it out. Red team is about getting in and getting out stealthily. Bug bounty is all about the fastest finger first for the biggest win. So, what I didn't talk about previously is exfiltration. In a bug bounty, once you compromise a host, typically speaking, exfiltration of data will be out of scope. Whereas in a red team, it's probably part of your objectives. In a pen test, you're not really going to do exfiltration of data unless you're working on you're working on a proof of concept where you, compromise a payment card server and you've got access to fucking thousands of credit card numbers. Someone that I worked with did that recently and it's fucking cool. They got access, they were doing a PCI test and they got access to the payment card network and they had access to fucking thousands of credit card numbers stored in clear text. with, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, with the CVE numbers or without them? With them. So, yeah, pretty fucking serious stuff. If you find that in a pen test, fucking great. See if you found that in a bug bounty, you'd be rolling in cash. You'd be fucking driving Rolls Royces and shit. Because they're like, if you're a dickhead, which some people are, you take that information, you sell it on the black market, you make fucking loads of money, people do it. I don't do it personally because I value my life. I don't want to spend my life in prison. Some people are in the States right now facing potential stuff that they did. I'm not going to mention names, you might know him. It begins with an M. Sorry, Marcus. Shit happens. But yeah, I can't remember where I was going with that. Anyway, procedures. You've got recon, you've got enumeration, you've got coordination, you've got reporting. So recon, talked about it extensively. Enumeration, once you've got all your data, you're enumerating the network, you're enumerating the company. I do apologise for the camera, I'm walking about all the place, but you're enumerating everything, you're pulling things. I suppose the biggest difference between pen testing, red teaming, and bug bounties is reporting. For a pen test report, you're probably reporting on fault-based, so you're reporting on your issues. So, you've got shit headers, we found process scripting, we found SQL injection. In a bug bounty, that's very similar. You're reporting individual bugs that you've found. Typically speaking, you'll be one bug per report if you're smart. Some programs will say, well, you found XSS on 15,000 endpoints, we want that in one report, we'll give you 50 quid for it. Others will give you 50 quid per report, so you report that 15,000 times, you make a fuck for the month. Whereas the difference between that and red teaming is red teaming, you're talking about your attack path. Red teaming is very heavy on documentation because you're documenting the steps of everything you do. So a red team, technically speaking, if you compromise an organization, you need to have a kind of traceable, almost like a forensic report, traceable what you've done. So at 3:15 on Tuesday afternoon, I ran this command on this machine, and I found this. This was the output. So the client can go back through the logs, they can speak to their SOC and say, well, actually, we didn't see that, and then you can start to look at why that's a problem. I don't do it for bug bounties. I don't know anyone who does. People who do, yeah, cool, it would be good for your notes and stuff. I don't do it. I think it's too much effort for that specific reason. For a red team, you should be doing that because without that, the client's having no value. The other big difference between a red team and a bug bounty is you're writing about your attack path. Often the report will be a kind of a map of all the steps you took. So you'll be looking at, we compromised the organisation at this part of the business, and we got access to this part of the network, and we popped over to here, and we got access to this and this and this. And you'll find that they're very bespoke reports. Often things like pen test reporting and also bug bounty reporting has been automated to the point where you just point and click, you grab your issues, drag them into the report, and you're all good. Red teaming is very bespoke in the sense that you're writing what's happened, you're writing the scenario, you're writing everything, essentially. And it's very kind of big wins, quick wins, objective based. Whereas the other two are not subjective based, but very similar. The kind of other aspect of things that is coming out more and more is automation. So kind of finding the easy, low-hanging fruit. In bug hunting, that tool I talked about earlier on, Asset Note, it's a paid-for tool. It automates a lot of the kind of very, very, very simple stuff. So it finds exposed Git repositories, it finds exposed config files, it looks for vulnerabilities in the PHP, it'll try and exploit things like SQL injection. When it finds them, it's automated them, so it's got you a proof of concept. Maybe if it's SQL injection, it'll find the version of the database it's running, and it'll kind of bundle that all up, chuck it in a report, and email it to you, and then you're better off. Also, off the back of automation, Neil demonstrated a very cool technique this morning, automating grabbing Kerberos information and emailing it to you. Yeah, you might not use that red team, but it's automating that process of kind of infiltrating an organization, gathering data, and then getting it out. So getting it out over email, it's cool. I've never seen it before. I have seen it before, but I've not seen it in red teaming, it's pretty fucking cool. You're also not just discovery, you're looking at automation of deployment of infrastructure. So a lot of stuff that I do when I'm bug hunting is I'll spin up a Docker container for that specific target. Docker is fantastic. There's so much you can do with it. Like, if you've got a tool that requires a lot of dependencies, 9 times out of 10 there'll be a Docker container for it. Pull a Docker container down, run it, boom, good to go. There's a tool that I use for DNS enumeration called Aquatone. It's Ruby based. I think it's now Go based, but it used to be Ruby based. had fucking thousands of like dependencies. Random. I don't know if Robbie's in the room or not. Is he here? Nope. He basically took that and put it in a Docker container, and I now use it day to day. It's so bloody useful. Like you just go boom, run. I want the host, and it just does it. Don't need to install things. Don't need to do that. Other thing, this can change. That's fine. The other things you can do is you can automate deployment of red team infrastructure. I'm seeing it more and more. Things like Ansible, things like Terraform. You're looking at kind of automating your C2 frameworks. You're automating deployment of your C2 framework, automating your redirectors, automating basically automating your build process. The less time you spend building things and the more time you spend like planning operation, the more fun you're going to have. The more benefit it's going to be for the client as well. Because if you can turn around and say, I can spin up infrastructure in half a day, whereas it might previously have taken 5 days. You're saving yourself time. You're giving the client more value. How that is applicable to bug hunting as well is most bug hunters will use either their local machine. A lot of people will use like VPSs. So being able to deploy a VPS with all the right tool set you want for a specific type. So if you have I don't know, maybe you use Ansible. I know a few guys that have Ansible playbooks for specific types. So I'm going to go after web targets. Boom, playbook set up. It's built. Take a couple of minutes or maybe an hour, depending on what you've got set up, and that's it. You're good to go. Quick wins. It's quick wins at the end of the day. You're looking for fun stuff. Then you've got your tactics. So this kind of builds on what was discussed earlier on. You're talking about your brand enumeration. So you're finding the acquisitions. You're looking and going after the supply chain. More often than not, if you're going after a big corporate in a bug hunt, acquisitions will be in scope. You'll find that Facebook and Yahoo, they've got lots of acquisitions and lots of low-hanging fruit on things that have been around for fucking ages. Like that what I talked about earlier on, 20 years on the internet, that's an acquisition. Companies buy companies, they leave them, they get pwned, shit happens, but they forget about them. So if you report that, you get a quick win. In a red team, that can be gold dust. If you find that your target has acquired a smaller software house, the software house maybe build, I don't know, like a thick client, so like a Java-based application. If you can access that, download it, reverse engineer, you might find it's got hard-coded keys in it. You leverage those keys, you log into external-facing servers, you're already in their network. You don't need to fish them. You don't need to do anything like that. You're already in. So you've got your foothold. Then you've got your asset discovery, so you're looking at your IP blocks, you're looking at the cloud. The cloud has been used as a buzzword for as long as I can remember, but it's becoming more and more popular where you find exposed things like Kubernetes on DigitalOcean. You have them exposed on Azure, AWS, all sorts of stuff. A massive, I think it was last year, the year before, massive instance of exposed S3 buckets. S3 buckets being a kind of storage that AWS uses. A lot of people were leaving like really sensitive shit just exposed. So you go to s3.domain or whatever, and you've got access to lots of stuff. That's a finding straight away in a bug hunt. That's a lot of information straight away in a red team. So you can leverage it that way. Then you've got DNS enumeration. So not only are you doing subdomain enumeration, you're also looking at like lookups, finding people who have registered domains. There's commercial tools out there that do it. They'll trawl through everything that's in your whois records. They'll collate similar. So if you've registered a domain and you've got your name as the contact, it'll go and trawl through everything that's got that contact, find domains. You can sometimes find like unknown acquisitions that way. You've got OSINT, so you're still using Google that way, you're using LinkedIn, you've got phishing, you've got all sorts of things. SE is never really in scope, so social engineering, it's never in scope in a bug hunt. It's more in scope in red teams. Then you've got tooling examples, so I've mentioned it previously. Google is probably the biggest tool that most people will use in a pen test. They'll probably use it in a red team, they'll probably use it in a bug hunt. If you don't know something, fucking Google it, because it's probably got the answer. And my mum is a prime example. She knows how to use Google, because she just asks exactly what's in her mind, and it comes back. Some people are like, type a fucking paragraph out. That's not how you use it, but like, put in what you want the answer to, put in your question, and you'll probably get something back. Just don't Google bondage. Historical discovery tools. So I talked a couple of slides ago about discovery. These three tools, written by Tom and Nom, that guy, works for, I think he works for Sky, but he's written loads of tools on his GitHub. Wayback URLs, you feed it a list of URLs, it will go away and it will crawl archive.org and Wayback Machine and look for any paths that it finds. Then if you pipe that into you are interesting, what it will do is it will look for potential parameters and inputs in those URLs. So you might have thousands, tens of thousands of paths out of Wayback URLs. You plug it into that and you find, well, actually there's PHP info here and it's exposed. Or there's ID equals 1. Oh, that's vulnerable to SQL injection. And then you've got a whole load of fun. What he was also talking about, he's got a video on YouTube. It's about an hour long talking about reconnaissance, and it's fucking great. You should go watch it. I'll maybe try and tweet it out later. He talked about HTTP probe that I've never used before, but I used it recently, where you basically have, so you go into Wayback URLs, you find that there's thousands of domains. Some of them might not be live. So if you use something like Eyewitness, you can go and try to screenshot them, but what HTTP probe will do is it will scan them for ATM443. Straight away, it'll list them out if they're a valid URL, and then you can use that to attack. Useful for red teaming, useful for bug hunting. There's new tooling all the time. If you follow Reddit, you follow Twitter, Telegram, there's lots of different platforms. If you follow the hashtag bug bounty, there's fucking tweets going every second of new tools, new ways of finding bugs, things like template injection, for example. Template injection was demonstrated by James Kettle at BSys Manchester last year or the year before, which is a way of exploiting Node.js. It was found from doing bug bounties, and it's now being leveraged in, it's been leveraged in pen tests. It's been leveraged in, threat actors are using it in certain scenarios. There's other tools, so all the reconnaissance-based tooling that is being found, it's been developed for specifically bug hunting, but now can be transparent and used for red teaming, can be used for pen testing. The multifaceted, tooling is so fucking useful. Then we've got my kind of favourite slide. Fucking love Comic Sans. Everyone fucking hates it. Fuck you guys. Essentially, each of these solves a different problem, and they have differences. They have similarities. Red teaming, you're testing a defensive capability. Bug bounty is your very security approach within a wider scope. I've harped on about it. Social engineering, typically at scope, but everything else generally in scope. Pen testing, it's the yellow one here, so you're identifying vulnerabilities in a time-based scope. It's usually quite closed. It's usually checkable. Sometimes you do get fun pen tests, like the one I talked about earlier on about payment card details, but 9 times out of 10 it's kind of compliance-based. It's a very fast-moving and changing market. So bug bounties is not pen testing. They're not the same thing. Pen testing is not a bug bounty. If you're doing pen testing, you're not doing bug bounty. Pen testing isn't red teaming, and it's not bug bounty. And some companies will sell you a red team, but it's actually a pen test. I've been Andy Gill. Thanks for listening to me. Has anyone got any questions? Would anyone like some whiskey? Fuck off, it's fucking great.